I'm going to walk you through the income statement for Proct, and you'll see that we just launched recently in December 2016, and we only had a couple of months of running the business before I unfortunately had some pretty significant health issues. And I have had to take a step back from running the business. We are still continuing to run our social media platform, in particular our Instagram account, because we have a really fabulous community, and we'd love to keep that going for the next buyer, whoever that may be. It's nice to have a little bit of continuity there. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of the line items on the income statement. As you can see, we have basically a commission revenue structure where our revenue stream is based on a 35% commission for anything that is sold through the website. There was a point earlier when we first launched when we were selling some private label products. They were just products that were vintage items that we used to set the visual tone for the website. And so there was a small amount of those products, but basically the ongoing revenue stream would be from that 35% commission. You'll see that we've removed the seller share from that, and that's resulted in a net income, which again is quite low. We didn't have many months of running the business before we decided to sell the business to someone who will be able to take it in a new direction, hopefully grow it with some addition of, advertising efforts. We hadn't done anything to promote the site outside of our Instagram work. So in terms of shipping and delivery, that line item, we were basically, the way that shipping is set up on the site is that we take a small fee for any shipping for any purchase that's made on the site. So when a buyer goes to buy something, they'll pay $6 in shipping, and then there was an overcharge for larger items that exceeded a certain weight volume. But our intention was to make things as easy as possible for the sellers. And so that's why we agreed to this flat fee. We were assuming some small part of the shipping expense because the shipping expenses ended up being a little bit higher than what we were charging. So that's why you'll see the delta there. That $72 for April is just us covering a small amount of the shipping expense. And then you'll see our gross profit. There were some smaller charges, bank charges, PayPal fees. Those are recurring expenses, but quite minor. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the marketing line item, which is, that was one of our major expenses outside of development. We had 3 people on our team who were helping out with generating newsletter content, running the social media, and doing some design work for our newsletters. So those were the 3 main people there. Also, I had someone who was helping me out. She was basically my right-hand person running the business to help support me as I went through the last couple of months with some of these health issues. So her fees are in that line item as well. I would assume that those could be minimized if you have an in-house design team or marketing team who's already working on other projects, who are able to then create a little bit of newsletter content and blog post content for the site. Let's see, there's some basic meals and entertainment expenses, subscription fees. We were subscribed to a number of different software platforms like Later, which helped us schedule our Instagram posts. Again, nothing minor or nothing major. The accounting is an expense that was just due to my the person who was supporting me from an accounting perspective. She was doing the month-end books, and you'll see that's where we get to the large majority of our professional fees. We did have some rent expense on some office space in New York City, and then also we had a studio in in Hoboken, New Jersey, that was meant for shooting the vintage items and warehousing the vintage items that we sold at the beginning of our website launch. Let me see. Contractors, this is the main expense. This was mainly our admin, and then also some actually the person I misspoke earlier, the person who was running my right hand, who was essentially my right hand person and helping me run the business, her name was Sonia, and her fees were right here. She was working for a salary of about $80,000 per year. So that's the large majority. The other expenses there were some admin and an intern who was helping out. Okay, other things are quite minor, some minor travel on my part. Let me see. Okay, now website development is one of the major expenses that we had, particularly after March, when we had launched with a website developer who had worked with Sonia in the past, and we felt that he was sort of maxing out on his capabilities to do edits to the site. We wanted him to insert little things that are common to e-commerce platforms, like adding a 10% off, or submitting your email address so that we could subscribe people to the newsletter, little things like that. He wasn't doing it quickly enough, and he also didn't seem to have the right capabilities. So we actually ended up switching to a developer who was based in the US, and those developers, you'll see this is $23,000, which is mainly due to the initial development expenses with Eric. But we had another, I'd say, $15,000 of development expenses that came in May and June of this year. We wrapped up any additional work with those developers just because the prices were quite high. But that's where you'll see a lot of our expenses going to is in outside development costs. So that gets you to our total expenses. This other income is, as you can see, that was from previous months when we were selling our vintage items, and those were not commission-based revenues. Those were just revenues from those items, the sale of those items. And that gets you to our net income. So again, not profitable at this point. It's something that we would have hoped for within the next 12 months, given that we had gotten through the bulk of our development costs, and everything from this point forward was going to be just maintenance. We think the site is in great shape right now. There weren't any additional major issues that we were working on. The web developers were mainly helping us out with updating some of the content on the homepage and minor fixes as they came up. And as I mentioned before, some of the bigger campaigns that we were going to embark on were some PR work to spread the news about the website. No one knew about the website because we hadn't done any work with either optimization on Google or anything involving paid advertising, so no Google AdWords or anything like that. So the people that knew about the site were our Instagram community, which was engaged with the site for a period. They bought a bunch of items. I think that the nature of that kind of relationship is cyclical, in that you'll get a bunch of purchases and then you won't hear from them for quite a few months, and then they'll probably come back to purchase some more items. But we just didn't have enough time to start cycling through that relationship. So once they worked through and had bought a bunch of items, it really would have been up to Google to start sending traffic over to the site. And that was going to be the focus of our next effort. But again, unfortunately, we never got to that point. I can spend a second going through some of the bank statement, the balance statement numbers, so that you can see where we spent some of our money. We do have a number of current assets, including the trademark. We spent $5,000 on the website domain name for both propt.com and propt.co. So we own both of those, and also the name Propt itself is trademarked. It's in the final completion of that trademark process, and that should be completed by August. But everything has been registered, filed. The early trademark application was approved, and so we should be all set there. So let's see if there's anything else. You can see that $200,000 number is the owner's contribution. That's essentially what we have spent on the site, minus about 10,000, which is still left in the account after we have paid out the developers, which are their fees are not included on this set of statements right now, because we're still in the process of tallying up the month-end results for June and May. I've tried to reduce our accountant's involvement and try to reduce her costs, which is why we didn't have her draw those up in May. Any questions, feel free to contact me, and good luck with the bidding process.